What's happening, y'all? I'm here with Abraxas Higgins. He was the moderator of our Future of Sports panel. Man, welcome.
Thank you, bro. Yes.
Amazing job, man. Amazing job up there. The biggest thing I seen was how you were able to keep reconnecting back to where we are headed in this space. Can you give us the 2-minute drill of where you think this space is headed with innovation sports and beyond finances?
Great question. And I'm going to distill it into something else and just kind of say we're noticing American culture has finally been given a price, and it's extremely high. When America sneezes, the rest of the world catches a cold, and what I mean is if American rappers start rapping in a certain way, the rest of the rappers in the rest of the world start rapping a certain way. What we're seeing is a bunch of capital coming from the Middle East, and it being invested in WWE, all sorts of things that are very much so to do with American culture. So we're starting to see things in sports, entertainment, and music, which I think are part of a holy trinity of culture, be invested in at an alarming rate. So with that being said, I think we're on this trajectory for things to finally be given the price, the name, and the respect they've been due for a very long time. And I'm excited.
Awesome. You have a history working with BlackRock, and now moving on with your new venture.
Yes.
Man, how do I ask this the right way? What inspires you to do what you do, to work in a space that's first heavily saturated with people that aren't black and don't represent our culture?
Facts.
But also being able to be that bridge and connect those dots.
So it's interesting. I think I knew the day I did my first full day at BlackRock, because I'm not an intern anymore. This is my first day. I was like, okay, I have to do this for how long? I don't think I'm going to make it. So I knew in the back of my head this was never a forever thing, but it was a great place to learn, a great place to cut my teeth, and a great place to build relationships. Like, some of the people I worked with are incredibly smart, funny, gregarious, like some great people. But ultimately, I left to then move to LA to manage rappers. Like, I was like, I want to go manage rappers in LA, and I did it. It was, I always say that at that point I was exchanging capital was why I worked for BlackRock on Wall Street, right? The reason I started managing rappers, I didn't know at the time, was that I was trying to accrue a different type of capital, and that capital is called cultural capital. It's different, but that capital allows you to be in rooms with rappers. It allows you to co-design sneakers with brands like Puma. It allows you to do things that normal people can't, because you've accrued a certain level of cultural capital, right? And they believe in your barometer for cool. But now, once again, I believe culture drives the market before the stock market moves. The cultural market moves, but it's very hard to get a read on that. There is no Bloomberg for culture, and the reason I bring that up is what I'm building now is sort of the legacy credit bureaus haven't been doing what they've needed to do for us, right? They don't take on Netflix, Spotify, or any of the payments we actually make every month on time into account. And the bureaus are finally saying that they'll take that data and allow it to affect credit scores. So I built the platform that exists in the middle of these to ensure that every single payment you and I make going forward gets accounted and improves our credit scores. That system wasn't designed for us. It wasn't designed for us or by us. What I'm making is for us, by us. A cultural revolution in the credit space. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Right. We're right there.
So you've gone from scaling infrastructure for trillions and pioneering brand partnerships and social audio. What's the real talk on how you identify overlooked value at the intersection of finance, technology, and culture, and bring it all together?
Such a good question. And I think the answer to that is simple. If you can exist in those ecosystems where purely somebody whose code is just a coder, somebody who's in music is just in music, and somebody who's just in finance is just in finance. The part that you're playing now is you are a bridge between those cultures. You're a translator, right? And that's ultimately what you want to be, or the position you want to be in. So for me, it was always about trying to figure out how those things would play along. And the best way I can explain this is when everybody at BlackRock was reading The Economist and the Financial Times, I was reading Hypebeast, high sobriety. And my boss would be like, what are you reading? Like, you know, everybody else is, and I'm like, I think this market moves, and then that market moves. I was like, I don't get it, but I think I do. But I was like, I think that this is the barometer, right? Yeah. The culture that I have, and maybe you guys don't, right? But if you trust me, trust my barometer, and that's the kind of point that I'm trying to make here. That ultimately, I was just a bridge in those sorts of ecosystems, to be a bridge, to be able to relay information to people that may have interest in it but don't quite know it yet.
Did you create that philosophy yourself, or did it come from reading, or like, how did you see that the culture was the barometer for financial markets?
So something, I can't remember what the actual play was, but something happened, and but I'd seen it happen way before. So one of the scenarios that I saw happen was there was a game that came out, and this is going to sound really weird, but hear me out. There was a game that came out, I can't remember the year, but it's called Crisis. Came out on PCs, couldn't go onto consoles because it was the graphics were beautiful. It was this game that just looked incredible, and the gameplay was fun too. At that point in time, like, the only way to really be able to run it was to put two GPUs together and run them in a mode called SLI. So you would take one GPU and plug them together, and then they would then split your screen. So one GPU would be sorting out one side of the screen, the other GPU running the other side of the screen, and somehow this great tech would allow you to play this game. Now, and I say, it looks like a movie. It was insane. So for a lot of people, that was a cultural moment that dictated that, hey, if I want to be able to play the next generation of games, this is where we thought they were going, I need to have an NVIDIA GPU. At this point, NVIDIA's stock price isn't that high, and I'm not saying that this is the only reason, but at that point I took great interest. I had two GPUs running that cost me an arm and a leg. The two GPUs running and play this game, and I was like, holy smokes, the future of gaming is going to be incredible. But this all happened prior to, and if you look at their, you know, the demographic of like young adults at that period of time who were buying AMD, are their biggest competitor, but everybody was buying NVIDIA products. Like the culture had decided that NVIDIA was better. And even when they did tests and AMD was better, nobody cared. The culture had decided. It's the same with iPhones. I've seen how good a Samsung looks. I've seen how good those pictures. You think I don't want? Where are we at culturally with that? Right? This is the thing. So I think some of these plays, I think you have to reverse engineer how you got to that point and dictate what were we doing, what were the masses doing, and then what was the culture doing? Was there a cultural shift? Has something happened that allows me to play in this space in a completely new way? So that was kind of how I thought about stocks, how I thought about artists, how I thought about music. Yeah.
You broke some rules, right? You broke some rules. Monetizing sound audio and our social audio, like these brilliant ways, right? Because you're speaking the language of the people who have the money.
Yes.
And you're able to, like you said, translate it, man. That's the perfect word, to translate it for the culture, right? And so for someone who doesn't know, right, who some of those words you just said sound very foreign to me, right? I understand the message for sure. How do we get into this space to begin to understand it so we can be a part of where this is headed? Yeah,
for sure. I think the interesting thing is, fortunately for me, I love the whole 2016 rap era, hype beast. I love that. I will always look back on that era with a smile on my face. It was just such a fun time to be able to be a young adult, to go to Coachella, to see it all happen in real time. But because I think the big play here was the secondary market started to explode. So we're seeing like sneakers have their own on StockX, have their own index, and you start to realize that things can be, there is a market for these things, I suppose, just somebody hasn't built it yet. I think the best way to play in any space is figure out what your interests are. And most of the time, your interests have what I call like overlapping features. And it sounds so stupid, but the fact that I was interested in music then gave an interest to fashion. And the fact that I then had an interest in fashion then gave, in a very weird way, an interest to tech. And so what you start to do is lean heavy into your interests, because they do overlap. There's nothing that's very few things I think that are solely isolated. Once you start to have your interests dictate your thought patterns, right, and your reading, Like for me, Wall Street was never going to do it. I had no interest in reading the Financial Times. None. It was so boring, so boring. But I loved reading Hypebeast. Right? I loved reading Kanye to the forums to see who they were saying is up next. When your interests overlap and you truly start spending mental cycles in that space, you can start to put together what I would call like a blueprint for what you then believe maybe or may have an interest to the greater masses if you can kind of think in that space early enough. So it's just time. I think it's just time, and once you start practicing this, and I think I was in a job, in a role that allowed me to practice it in real time, but I got it wrong. Oh yeah, I got it right. I really got it right that time. And after a while, you start to trust what I would call your barometer. I would say my granddad could walk outside and go, it's gonna rain. How? Right? How do you know that? For me, it's like, I think that's gonna have a humongous impact on the culture. Somebody's gonna be like, how do you know that? As I said, I think it's just an overlapping of interests and where I spend the majority of my mental cycles.
Wow, man. I don't know if I've ever been speechless in a podcast. Now my brain is racing, right? I'm thinking about all my verticals, right? Like with basketball and podcasting, all this stuff. And I'm like, man, how do I bring it together for this technology era, this AI era that people don't understand that these eras they used to be longer, but now they're way shorter. And we're right now in this AI era, and it's time to capitalize. And then it's going to be something else that we don't even know is coming.
Exactly.
How do we capitalize in this era? I want to say from an investment standpoint.
Okay. So if you were investing, depends on how much money you have.
So I say the average person, right? Say, $500 a month. They're able to get going. I'm talking to the young person, right? To the person that was you right out of high school, college, trying to figure it out.
Index fund. I'm gonna be so index fund. Just be compound interest, index fund. Just keep it normal, keep it vanilla. I think if you've got more capital and you're risky, there are all sorts of alternative. I do discussions. Family offices will have me come in and talk to them. One family office was really interested in investing in music, and I made a joke. I was like, my biggest investment in music was me quitting my job on Wall Street. Right? Quit my job on Wall Street where I was making really good money to then go and manage rappers. And I was saying, but as an asset class, it's awesome. He was like, well, I don't get it. I was like, it's the most uncorrelated asset class of all time. And what I mean by that is, if the stock market goes down, everything kind of goes down. Bonds go down, crypto goes down. It's all they're correlated together. Imagine there being a string between all of these dots. So when one falls, they all get dragged down. Maybe not as far, but they all get pulled down. The string that's attached to music is really weak, or there's a distance between that's really long. So this has to go down really far for this string of music to feel affected. And it's because if we go to war tomorrow, I'm still going to listen to Spotify.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If we do, it doesn't make a difference. It's one of those asset classes that produces really good returns and is a great way to diversify your portfolio. So to anybody who's maybe got a bunch of money is looking for something that maybe uncorrelated, it's looking a little sketchy out there, I would say music. Music's a great asset to invest in. And there's a bunch of funds, Resonate being one of them, that do a great job on sort of capturing the right type of catalog for investors. Like there's, And finally, I'll say there's another fund out there that I have to give a shout out to because they get it right all the time. Imagine you had a fund that could just invest in the culture. There's a fund out there that does that. Yeah, really, really cool fund, headed up by a guy called John. Last name will come back to me. But John is a cultural savant. He gets it. His portfolio looks incredible. It looks insane. And he's got a bunch of capital he's deploying to the culture. If it doesn't move the cultural needle, he will not invest. And I think this fund is going to have phenomenal returns.
Are we allowed to know the name of the fund?
Will come back to me.
I'll make sure I'll get it, guys. At least for me.
I'll get it back.
It's cool. I'm selfish. Even if I get it, we'll be fine. No.
We'll get the name. We'll get you that name. But yeah, there are people out there that have realized.
Yes.
In the Middle East was maybe the first. They realized heavy on, but maybe before Americans even realized how in demand their culture was. When you're just living here, it's whatever to you, right?
Right.
As I said, when America sneezes, the rest of the world catches up.
I learned it in college, actually. Like, we saw those trends, right? Hip hop, just hip hop itself.
It's just that
hip hop
subculture.
Itself. And it just spread like wildfire everywhere, and it controlled a lot of things. And so it makes a lot of sense. you're walking in your purpose. What is your purpose? And who are the people you serve in your purpose?
I think my purpose is for my family to be the conduit for new experiences. So I've got a bunch of younger cousins. I would love to just, I seem to hop around and live in a bunch of places. I'm living in Tokyo for the next 6 months, like, come hang out, I've got your flight. You know what I mean? Like that, to be a conduit for new experiences for my family. And that being, my family and the family I choose to have as well, so friends and family, right? In the larger ecosystem, I believe it's more so to be a translator and builder. But I feel like there's something egregiously wrong in the credit space, and there's something I can do, or there's something really wrong about the way you receive your music royalties when I manage rappers and being like, hey, maybe there's a deal that I can broker. So a lot of this is like negotiation and trying to figure things out where both parties feel happy. And maybe the final thing as I mentor as well is to kind of hand down. I can't even say I hand down at this point. The one person I mentor, shouts out to Reggie Nelson, is now working at Blackstone, earning a lot of money every year, but a phenomenal human being. So I think it's hard to quite put my finger on. I never normally lose my words, actually, so that's a really good question. But I think it's, as I said, to be a conduit for new experiences for my family, to be a translator for sort of the culture, and to ultimately build something that changes lives. In a good way. Not for, like, profit is, if you're good at something, you will make profit. That's a byproduct of being good at something. Like, I don't think you need to actually, to do bad to make money. You can make money and do good as well. I think that's just the way. It may be a hard road. But let's be honest. I told my friend, he was like, dude, I'm not rich yet. I said, well, you really want to? You ain't set the bar low enough. So you really want to get rich?
Never heard that.
You can set the bar real low and get real rich. Let me tell you. However, you've got standards.
Yeah.
It's harder to do when you have standards. It's harder to do when you don't want to ensnare and impoverish a community. It's harder to do. So keep doing it and keep figuring out a way to do it the right way, in my humble opinion. Let the people that want to do it the other way, let them do it. You know what I mean? But if you've got morals about you, try and figure out a way to do it the right way.
Man, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, Abraxas, Higgins, beautiful insight. And that's all we have for you. Peace.
Thank you, guys.